Hey guys, welcome to Matters of the Heart and Soul podcast. This is Janie Charlo, one of your hosts, along with Russell Bruce.
Hey, everybody out there.
Guys, it is so good to be here. We've been doing all kinds of things, but Matters of the Heart and Soul podcast is definitely one of our babies. And so we haven't been neglectful. So we are here to talk about balance on this podcast. So Russell is going to start us off.
All right. So we had this discussion and we were talking about balance. And a lot of times we talk about balance in the mind, body, and soul, which really kind of encompasses everything. But that would also include balancing your emotions, uh, balancing your masculine and feminine energy, balancing your positive and negative energy, so but for the most part, everything can probably be all encompassed in balancing the mind, body, and soul. And it's like not trying to be too lopsided. Like you don't want to be that person that, just loves to work out so much that you spend 4 or 5 hours every day in the gym and you never get a chance to read a book or pray or meditate or develop yourself spiritually, or develop your mind. And nor do you want to be that person that just turns into a bookworm and you never get a chance to go to the gym and your health starts to depreciate. Nor do you want to be that person that's just so spiritual that, that you don't stay connected to the real world and you don't read up on current issues. Um, and you don't work out and you don't take care of your health, because we see people who are good people and, but they probably pass away early because of deteriorated health. So we want to talk a little bit about how do you actually balance these things to get the most out of life, because you really, like what good would it do to become a millionaire and you have poor health? You know, you probably want to travel, you want to do different things like that, but you never really get chance to get out and enjoy wherever it is that you're visiting because your health is suffering. So we want to talk about some of those things. And Janie, I think we could come back to you. Like, how does one say balance their emotions? You wrote a great book on 7 steps to mastering your emotions. How does one master their emotions?
Yeah, so emotions is a big thing that we have to balance. And in that book, I do give 7 steps to mastering your emotions, gaining emotional intelligence, and getting the best out of life. And basically, we have we have high vibrational emotions, and then we also have low vibrational emotions, and it's very common to experience them all. I don't know anyone that's never experienced guilt or sadness or doubt, um, or any of those lower vibrational emotions. And then I know people that experience happiness and joy and love and peace. And you have to be able to balance those, because if you stay and you linger in guilt and depression, that could really paint a reality for yourself, right? And we know that we can't always be up all the time. So it's important to be able to balance those emotions. And I've learned that just as a mom, I have to balance emotions of every other people too that's around me. So emotions is one of the big things that we have to balance. What about Russell? How do you balance being a father? Being a having a career, having a relationship, Um, and how do you balance those things? What are like some tips that you can give other men to stay in balance?
Okay, that's a good question actually. Um, my situation my situation is a lot easier when it's I think when I decided to stop spending a lot of time doing things that really didn't matter. You know, a lot of times you have to look and see what you spend most of your day doing, most of your week. And then you have to ask yourself in 5 years, where is this going to lead to? Right. So, it's like I've read somewhere, I can't remember where I read it, but I've seen it actually a couple places. It was just saying that you should spend the majority of your time doing things that are going to give you the results that you want. So it's like I have an idea of what I want my life to look like. So those things that don't fit, in that paradigm, I tend to spend less time or no time at all doing.
Mm,
Uh, I think we had a conversation not too long ago. Like I've read up a lot on the lives of centenarians, like people who live to 100, because I'm kind of fascinated by it. Like, what are some of the keys to longevity, to living a long, prosperous and healthy life? And one of the things that always stuck with me, like a lot of these people toward the end of their lives, if you ask them, like, what would they do over, the ones that were most happy would say nothing because they did those things. But the ones who were not happy, it was always they would want to spend more time with their loved ones and doing things that were more pleasing to the soul, right?
mhm.
So as a dad, I never wanted to be that person who at the end of my life I look back and I said I wish I spent more time with my children. Like I learned that early on, and I think I was kind of blessed, to kind of wait a little bit before I
So
did that.
So, learning how to balance time, right? Because some things we can't do over.
Oh, of course. It's like time is life, right? So it's like you don't get like the last hour that passed, I don't get that back. I don't get yesterday back. Like once it's gone, it's gone. So it's like we have to make the best out of each day. And I think as time goes along, I'm starting to learn more and appreciate being present more
Mhm.
because it's because really that's all you have, because you can't spend too much time worried about what's going to happen next week and 2 years, even though you kind of plan, for the future. But if you don't live for today, there is no future. Right? So it's like
Mhm.
today, your future self will appreciate what you do today.
Yeah.
You're doing things to try to get there. So, as far as parenting, I want to spend as much time with my kids as possible, being present. Both of them were athletes, student athletes. So a lot of times, helping them to develop as athletes, helping them to develop as students, doing homework with them, going swimming after school, praying with them at night before they went to bed, waking them up, cooking breakfast for them. So it was like I was very, very present in their lives.
Mhm.
But personally, I spent a lot of time reading, like in the evenings, I would do a lot of reading and research on spiritual and mental things to keep my mind sharp and to keep my spirit sharp, because they were relying upon me for knowledge, wisdom, and information, right? So
Mhm.
it's like I had to make sure that I was continuing to grow in order for them to grow. Because a lot of times, they may not listen to what you say, they see what you do. So I had to be an example. So I would spend a lot of time, you know, being present, and then also being present for myself, making sure I got that quiet time, for myself and to meditate and to commune with the Most High, and be able to, pass that information down. So,
Mhm. Um, I was thinking about how there's so many things that we do balance, right? Um, and you just think about how you wake up every morning and you have to make sure your kids are okay. And then you may have to be at work at a certain time, and then you have to be productive at work. You have to do the things that you're there to do. And then now we're needing to balance our health, and we're needing to balance our emotions and our mental stability, and then we need to get to the gym, and then we need to be creative. We need to produce things that come out of our own work. um, do you feel like people are overwhelmed trying to get to balance, or do you feel people just get to one spot and say, hey, this is all I can handle right now?
I think the people that have the most success with balancing their lives are those people who learn early on or quickly what their purpose is, or what it is they really want out of life. I think those people who just are kind of like the sand that blow whichever way the wind blows, those people I think have a pretty difficult time, and are probably having a very difficult time right now with what's going on in the world, being quarantined and locked down without any notice. You know what I mean? Because it
And
kind of,
that's a balance in itself, like not, like taking time to not be so engulfed in the news and what's going on in the world, and taking that mindfulness time. That's also a balance. I think for a long time, just the world was just going, 90 miles per hour, and I think we were forced to stop. We were
right.
forced to balance it, which you and I had a conversation. That's what karma is all about. Karma is all about balancing the wrongs and the rights. That's what it's about.
Right. So let me ask you a question, because it's like I get a front row seat into your world, and you seem to be very intentional about every minute of every day and every move that you make. You're probably one of the most methodical people I ever met in my life. It's like you put a lot of thought into some of the things that most people think are simple. But how do you approach a 24-hour day and intend to balance it and keep it all together? You're a mother, you know, you have somebody special in your life now, and you seem to always find a way to be present. you know your career is like you just seem to have it all together. You always have a smile on your face and a song in your heart. How do you manage that 24 hours and keep everything intact?
That's a good question. Um, I just know what is important to me. It's like I have my top, 3 to 5 things in a window, and that's it. And the things that fall in that window, I pay a lot of attention to it, and the things that are not in that window don't get my attention. Um, First of all, just keeping my mind very peaceful and free. I don't watch the news. I don't watch television. I don't watch reality shows. I don't spend time. I don't have idle time. I spend no idle time just doing that. When I want to relax, I'll lay in my bed, I'll sit in a quiet room, I'll take a nice long bath or a nice hot shower. But I don't just binge watch television. So I don't put time into things that cannot help me. That's number one. So my mind is very quiet and peaceful. I do have, God at number one. I have my family number two, and then I have work number three, and everything falls into that. And that's pretty much it. So I'm very purposeful in everything that I do. Um, it could be a simple thing as a lunch. I am very intentional about that lunch. Is this something that I need to invest that time in? If is this a friend that I need to, they really need me? I could tell there's something going on. Okay, the spirit is telling me I need to go to lunch with them. I go. Otherwise, I'm not really spending a lot of time on unnecessary things. Um, I get a lot done because my energy is literally, my thoughts are on those top three things. So my relationship, my kid, everybody's good there. I'm good. I'm good with God. God and me is good. Great. My work, my purpose, the things that I'm doing to put out to the world, the mission that I'm here is good. Everything's good. And I get 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. I cut off my work day literally 5, 6 o'clock. I'm not working all night. And I really have a lot of quiet time. So I'm very balanced. I work out. I love my workouts. I try to eat healthy. I drink a lot of water. All of that plays a part. It really, really does in just keeping your mind focused, staying on the task. I'm not, I'm not taking in the drama of other people often. I don't talk to a lot of people every day. I talk to close friends and family, often, and I try to help those people that I'm guided to help. But I don't allow it to take over my energy. I'm very protective of my energy, and that works for me.
So in your practice, like once again, we're talking about, say, mind, body, soul, right? So in your practice, when people come to you with, say, physical ailments or even mental ailments, how big is this spiritual aspect in mental and physical ailments? Like, for example, like a lot of times, even in relationships, illness, or whatever, you hear people talk about everything and they never really talk about the spiritual aspect. And we're not talking about religion. We're not
Right.
about Christ. We're just talking about pure spirituality, regardless of what your belief is. Like, we're
Hmm.
just talking about your connection to the Most High, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
This. Can you speak on that?
Yeah. So we create the body that we're in with our mental thoughts. So our thoughts and our mind create the body. Okay. So in practice, right, you have people with a lot of physical ailments, and usually the main root is always spiritual. And he said we're spiritual, not religious. And spiritual is really just knowing that God is within you. All right. You are a part of the bigger energy in the universe that flows through everything. And that universal energy is love, right? So that's really what that is about. So if that's the main energy and you have a physical ailment in the body, right? A lot of times issues go unhealed for a very, very long time in the body. And when energy, when that God energy, when that love cannot flow through the body, it causes a backup, or it causes a blockage, or it causes something where that energy cannot flow, right? And sometimes it's rooted in a lot of emotional and mental issues. It could be guilt from something that happened a long time ago. It could be some form of childhood issue, wound, injury that was never healed, never talked about. And usually, once you start to heal all that and you start to let go all of that emotional drama, energy just starts to flow in and you start to feel lighter, and then you heal. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. We're very self-healing. And so that is the balance, right? It is about balancing emotional, mental, and physical, because until you can clear the spiritual and emotional or mental issues, the physical body won't heal. Um, it's incredible just how many things and how many people I've talked to. And like I said, healing always goes beyond the physical element of why that client comes. When we start pulling back the layers, we realize there's a lot of stuff there that just has to be released. So
Good stuff.
it is balanced. It balances. And that was a big, I mean, among a lot of things, why I wrote Seven Steps to Mastering Emotions, because that has to be mastered. If you're harboring childhood anger to your mother or your father for things that they may not even know, you hold some resentment. Your father never attended any of your sporting activities, and you're just, that's deep, and is deep, and you never talked about it, and it's just there, right? And something will trigger you. You will get triggered and you don't even know why, and the person that you go off on don't even know why. So it's important to for us to bring all that out in the opening, so that emotionally you could heal, and then physically you could heal. And sometimes you may never get the answer to that. Like, you may never get the answer why your father didn't attend your sporting activities, right? But you at least know why you walking around angry, and then you can begin to heal, because healing is for you. It's not for the other person. Forgiveness is for you. It's not for the other person.
Wow. And I'm sitting here listening. We talked about this before, because that my life went down that path. I remember listening to Michael Jackson when I was younger, how he talked about how Joe Jackson had never threw a ball with him before, or told him he was handsome or anything like that. And it had a major impact on him. And I'm not sure if he ever really properly dealt with it, but I was a product of my parents splitting up when I was an infant, and I went a period of time where I didn't see my dad, even though I was a pretty good athlete. Team high school goes to the state championship. I played local college ball, and I appeared on television several times, and my dad he wasn't at any of my games. He wasn't at my little league baseball game or anything like that. We developed a relationship later on in my 30s, but during that time he wasn't there. So, as a young man growing up, I had holes, in my heart that I needed to fix, but I knew I needed to fix them. And I did go out and, I read books. I bought a lot of books on, like, self-help books, things on psychology, things like that, to help me understand what I was dealing with, you know. But the thing is, a lot of times people, I think, you're faced with that decision where you can get bitter or better.
Exactly.
I was one of those that was like, I want to be better. And
And you had enough self-awareness to know that. It's so many people that are not self-aware that is the reason why they're angry, or that's the reason why they can't maintain relationships, or that's the reason why there's so much toxicity or discord in their life. There's something deep down that they're hurting from, and you were just self-aware to know that hey, this is something I have to clear, because if you don't clear that energy, it gets deeper, it gets harder, it gets denser, and then it festers, and it turns into disease. It could turn into disease, cancer, weight gain, ailments, pain. I mean, just a whole bunch of things in the physical body. And then, once you start to heal all that stuff, it is like miracle. things just, the body just starts to heal because you got that flow of energy, which is love, right? Because at the end of the day, you talked about your your dad, right, never really going to those activities. And why would you really want him there, right? Because for you, it would have made you feel a certain way, right?
Well, as a young man, I think that young men are a little different, right? So young men tend to respect power. So, like in the neighborhood, we tend to gravitate toward the guy who's the strongest and things of that, and he kind of becomes the leader. So guys kind of tend to take the lead from him. That's like if there's no strong male figures around, right? So, but a lot of times it's a confidence thing, right? So,
So you feel like your dad being there would have helped build you confidence, or
well, a lot of times, like for example, like one of my buddies, like my buddy Jim Brown, who taught me into playing ball, his dad would show up at all the practices, and they kind of adopted me and would take me to other high school games, college games, if I needed a ride, things like that, right?
mm-hmm.
And that I always was impressed by and looked up to, and like, wow, that's cool to have a dad like that, right? And he kind of adopted me somewhat, as his child, and he would talk to me a lot, like after practice, after games, things like that. So as a young man and you're out there battling on a field or whatever, to know that you have somebody out there that has your back, I think it kind of gives you a little bit more confidence to go harder or stronger, and a
Yeah.
lot of times, it's, if you don't have it, you kind of play with a chip on your shoulder, because, this guy had a dad, I'm gonna show him, that I don't need one. So it's like you end up with all these different emotions and things
Well, it's
that
almost like a void, right? It's like a void. It's
well, it's definitely a void.
yeah.
Young men
Hmm.
definitely need their fathers, because it's like for example, here's a good one, right? So a lot of times you have situations where young men are raised in single family homes where it's just the mom, and when they have conflict, the only way they know how to deal with conflict is how they seen their mother deal with conflict. And 9 times out of 10, women deal with conflict emotionally. All right. So it's not always a good thing for a man to deal with conflict emotionally. Like right now, we see it playing out a lot right now with police, right? So a guy gets stopped, you know, if a good father, like I teach my son, to be smart, be wise. You're not going to be able to defeat a cop. You're out there in the dark road by yourself. There's 2 or 3 cops out there. Put your hand on the steering wheel, say yes, sir, and you deal with him in court. You're not going to deal with him out there 1-on-3 or him with a gun or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So a man would teach young men these things, right?
Hmm.
And then the kid who did not have that male figure or the father around to teach him how to act in different situations, not just with police, but with women or at the job or just with their friends or whatever, you teach them scenarios and how they should handle themselves, as a good man, not just, some rough and tough stuff or whatever. But this kid who's raised, say, by an emotional mother, and he acts emotionally with the police, right? Instead of him putting his hands on his will, he's being a little bit defiant. Like a woman will stand up to a man sometimes toe to toe, knowing she can't physically beat him. She'll try to beat him with what? Her mouth, her tongue.
Hmm.
And now you see some of these young men out here in situations that they can't win, and they're trying to beat them emotionally with their tongue. And they don't get to see their day in court. And you see these police show up at court, but this kid's dead and he's vilified in the media and everything else. So a lot of times you know, it's because that father wasn't there. So those are the kind of voids, you know, that father missing that leaves that kid unbalanced. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
one more thing, a lot of times it could be a generational thing.
Hmm.
So, you know, and it's a spirit that follows that bloodline, and somebody has to be the shifter that changes it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I knew I was different. You know, God put something inside my heart as a young man. I knew I was different, and I knew something was wrong, and I knew that I had to fix it. So I went out and sought information. I had probably about 50 mentors that didn't even know they were my mentors.
Mhm.
I would listen to a lot of lectures. I would go to lectures. I would purchase videos of strong Black male figures to get guidance from. You know, how do you treat a woman? You know, how do you deal with conflict? You know, what role do you play in your community, in your family? Like, how do you raise children properly? You know,
Yeah, that masculine balance.
exactly.
I would also wonder about, I mean, I think also just in the situation, right? Like the dad not being there, about validation and acceptance
That's big.
from the masculine side, because I think this is why so many young men are like in the streets and get caught up in gangs, because they get accepted, from other male figures, when I think that validation and that acceptance should come from the father, because the father is, like you said, it's like, as a man, it's something with the power thing, right? But when your father just kind of accepts you and validates you as a man, is something about that.
Oh, it's very special, and it's not just with men; it's with women too. Because you got
Yeah,
to think about it. It's like,
that's true. That's true. Men validate their daughters as well.
yeah, because the
Fathers that validate their daughters. Yeah.
that's right. Because the father is really the first person that can accept or reject you. You know,
Yeah.
9 times out of 10,
In healthy situations and healthy
yeah,
dynamics.
9 times out of 10, the mother, you know, is present and loving of that child, and but that father is that one that can reject them. A lot of times you see, you know, people just disappear. Like some people don't even know who their father is. You know what I mean?
And that
So
and that's that's so important in balance. It's so important in balance, because
yeah,
you could walk around too far in your masculine or too far in your feminine, trying to overcompensate for something you didn't have.
and we see that playing out
Hmm.
every day. So that's another thing we could speak on, that like the balance of masculine and feminine energy, you know, and not just talking about male and female relationships, so to speak, within an individual. Like, you know, most psychologists will say that 80% of men are masculine, 20% are feminine. You know, 80% of women are feminine,
Hmm.
20% are masculine. Doesn't mean that they're bisexual, homosexual, anything of that nature. We're just talking about the masculine and feminine nature, because you have some people who
Yeah,
are asexual. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So,
Those energies exist. Both energies exist
right,
in us. Yeah,
right.
and
So
we have to balance it.
right. And a lot of times it gets socialized within the household, within the community, depending on what kind of community they live in. You know, like I grew up in the project. So it's like there was like just 1,000 people to play with, you know, we were all in the same boat. So even though there weren't a lot of fathers around, there were a lot of young men, you know, just a lot of that masculine energy running around. So we kind of, you know, if you went outside, you had to play ball, you had to learn how to play the dozens, you had to learn how to stand on your own. But there were, you know, a lot of men as far as sports and things like that. So a lot of times the coaches, there were a lot of good coaches that we all had growing up in my neighborhood that acted as good role models, father figures. Like I was blessed to have my uncle present, my mom's brother. He would spend a lot of time coming by the house talking to me and my brother because he had sons, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was blessed in that nature. To have him around. My grandfather, on my mother's side would come through a lot. So, I did have some male figures in my life. And, like my uncle actually ran the teen lounge and everything there.
Mm-hmm.
So I was blessed in that nature. There was still a lot around, but you have some situations, say a kid grows up in the suburbs with just his mom, not a lot of kids to play with. And he has two sisters and he's seeing them put on makeup, wear dresses. And, it makes it a little difficult for him to really grow up with that masculinity unless, it's like their community or he's engaged in sports or what have you. He might be a little timid or what they call soft.
Mm.
So it's
So
it's balance of energy.
yeah. Clearly we have to balance those energies, masculine and feminine. And we talked about balancing our relationships and work and, being a parent. What are some other things that we have to, I was just sitting thinking how even in the body, your body has to be balanced. Like all of your electrolytes have to be in balance. Your potassium level, your magnesium level, all of that has to be in balance. And when it's not, your body goes crazy.
Something has to give. What is it?
Yeah.
Homeostasis, right?
Yeah. I mean, we have, 12 hours a day and 12 hours at night, right? To balance. So, this whole podcast is really just to kind of bring some enlightenment to let everyone know that harmony is very, very important in life. Being balanced is very, very important in life. Without balance, and if you're too far to the left or too far to the right, you're gonna have to, that pendulum is gonna swing back and you're gonna eventually have to balance it back out. So try every day to stay in balance, do a little bit in each category is my philosophy to stay in balance. um any other tips you have, Russell, before we wrap it up?
No, I think that kind of sums it up. We
Yeah,
could talk forever because it's just balancing everything. The universe
it
has
is. And it's
balance.
work, right? It's work. It doesn't just like, everything's dusty and chaotic, and then it doesn't just fall on the ground and then it's perfect and balanced. No, like you have to work at balancing your life every day, every single day.
Yeah, it's and once again, you mentioned energy. It's all about maintaining that frequency. You can't be all over different wavelengths. You kind of have to kind of get in your lane, right?
Yep. Get in your lane and flow as much as you can. So that's pretty much it. That's all I have. And we just want to say that we're great to be back. We were on vacation and we had a wonderful time doing that because that's a part of us being balanced. We have to unplug and take the time that we need to reset and realign our goals and decompress and do all the things that we need to do to stay in balance. But it does feel good to be back, podcasting. It really does. I wanted to mention Bridge to Healthcare, nonprofit. Bridge to Healthcare is going to be amazing. We are accepting donations. You can go to bridgetohealthnow.org and make a donation. This podcast is going to be a part of that. Our health pillars are physical health, mental health, spiritual health, and relational health. So we have a lot of things planned so that we can bridge the gap. We want to be able to provide programs and services and access to everyone, to healthcare out there. And so Matters of the Heart and Soul podcast is a part of that right now. So Matters of the Heart and Soul podcast is inspired by love, God, relationships, spirituality, justice, culture, family, children, finances, freedom, personal growth, energy and vibration, universal principles, health, education, masculine and feminine energy, and all things of the heart and soul. We appreciate you guys. Definitely check us out on Instagram and Facebook. Of course, Anchor, our podcasting platform, the main one, but we are on all podcasting platforms. Russell, anything else? All right, so Russell's muted because he came out and came back in. So I don't know if he thought.
Yeah, something happened with my connection. I'm sorry.
All right.
But
All right,
yeah,
guys. Yeah, take care. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you guys later. Take care.
have a great day.